More than 60% of work management tool implementations fail within the first 6 months of you purchasing or subscribing to a platform. Over the last 5 years, I've been helping companies fight against that statistic, helping them implement and adopt different work management softwares into their daily operations. In this specific video, I want to focus on an exercise that's called selection of the work management platform, because I found that many operations leaders and business leaders struggle with actually finding the right software that they want to implement into their business. And this exercise takes a lot of time, is very daunting. So with this simple 7-step approach, I want to make this experience much easier and much faster for you to find the right fit and the right software for your specific use case. Now, I'm going to start with just 3 main objectives of this video. The first one is focusing on what really matters, because lately with so many options on the market and also the way these companies and SaaS companies are advertising their products, it's very easy to get distracted. So I want you to focus on what really matters and put aside everything that doesn't matter. The second one is ensuring that your team actually benefits from the tool you select. And if you've gone through this exercise and you've been there before, you probably understand that most of the time when you choose the platform, and again, it's more than 2/3 of the time, the teams just abandon the tool. They never log into the tool, they never manage their work in there, including yourself. We definitely want to make sure that the selection you make actually benefits your team members and your team. And the last one is obviously saving you time and money, because this exercise is very time consuming and very daunting if you do not have the appropriate steps in place and if you do not kind of follow a very structured approach and focus on what really matters. So let's kick things off. And before we start, before I present to you this 7-step approach, I want to kind of lay some foundations first. And I want to focus on the way SaaS companies are advertising their products right now. And most of the time, what they focus on is features and capability. And this is what we should not be focusing on when we're selecting the software, because this doesn't bring success, as I say, in isolation, or standalone features and capabilities do not bring success to your company and do not improve the way your team operates and your team works. What really matters is the adoption of the tool. And adoption is very simply how well the software or the platform that you're using is integrated within your daily operations. In this specific example, we're going to focus on work management software, but you can also apply this methodology to select any software or any technology to be implemented into your daily operations. Now, for this sake, I want us to focus on this very simple question before we dive into the framework. And it says, how will this software help our team work better? Now, we're not asking what features will help our team work better. We're not asking about how many features does the software have, but we're asking how will this software help our team work better? So we're focusing on our team, our operations, and not on the tool itself or the software itself. So now with this right mindset, let's dive into the framework. And this is the 7 steps on how to choose the work management software in 2025. Let's get started. So the first step is going to be pretty obvious, and you've probably heard about this before, right? Whenever you're doing your marketing strategies or you're doing anything else, basically the first thing is define the reason or the why behind you're doing things. So the same thing here. You want to understand the reason why you're looking for a new software. Is it because you want to save money and your current solution just costs too much? Is it because you do not have any software in place or any system in place and you want to make your management or work management, process management a bit more organized? Defining this reason will steer you into the right direction later on in this process. So I encourage you not to miss this step. And if you're not only decision maker in your company, let's say you're an operations manager or you're a COO of the company, make sure to involve all other decision makers as well, like CEO or COO if you're operations manager, to align on this vision, because different people might have different objectives of this exercise. Some of them are saving money, others are trying to improve their efficiency. So make sure to agree on this, define the reason, and let's move on to the next step, which is creating a feature wish list. Now, this might sound a little bit controversial because I mentioned that features and capabilities do not matter, but they do not actually matter in isolation, as I said. We still need to define feature list of our must-have and nice-to-have features that our team and we expect from the software to help us do our work better. Now, the way you do it is pretty simple, and this is the way I suggest my clients do this. is start with the processes. Do not focus on capabilities and features as a standalone thing. Focus on your processes first. Outline the processes, and if you have that already documented, that's perfect. Just look at the steps of the process of how your team operates and understand what features and what capabilities you might need to make their work easier. You might want to have time tracking available. You might want to have your task management available. You might want to have your timeline management available. So make sure to outline all of that and align with the way your team actually operates. Now, the easiest way, as I mentioned, identify processes in your company, map them out very quickly. Do not dive into much detail, but outline the main steps, and then based on those steps, identify the must-have and nice-to-have features and list them in a document. Now, after you've done this exercise, let's move on to the third step, which is researching and listing potential tools. Now, if you've gone through this exercise before, you might found this very fun exercise, but it can become very, very time consuming because of of so many options and diversity of options out there. I suggest you're using online resources such as G2, Capterra, or any other similar platforms that give you an overview of the platform or overview of the software you want to choose. And at this point, what I want you to do is select just 7 to 10 different options. Now, you can select more than that, but I don't want you to dive too much into reviewing every single platform because it's going to take a lot of your time. I want you just to go through the list of available options and list the ones that you feel like is going to work best. I don't want you to focus on features right now. I want you to focus on how you like the tool and just your gut feeling of, is this tool going to work or not? And again, this online resource is going to help you. I've also outlined a couple of more online resources that you can use, and you'll find documents with all of them and a full guide with all these tabs down below in the description, so feel free to download that guide. We're going to the next step, which is going to be shortlisting and conducting initial evaluations. Now, this part is where we're going to focus a little bit more on these platforms that we shortlist. So now you want to shortlist and conduct initial evaluations by basically comparing your features that tool provides you with your list of must-have and nice-to-have features. Now, the part of this exercise is also prioritizing the ones that you like the most. I'm telling you the ones that you like is just because no one knows better than you what tool is going to work for you. So prioritize the ones that you like, and you need to end up with 2 or 3 final options as your shortlist. So essentially you go from 7 to 10, you go down to 2 or 3 final options. Now, at this point, you're not going and you're not demoing very detailed every single tool. You might want to go and check YouTube videos. You might want to register the account and just poke around. But you do not want to spend a lot of time in every single platform because it's, again, going to just increase and eat up your time, and we do not want to do this. Now, as soon as you've done that, we're moving on to the step number 5, which is the most fun part, and it's very, very important, and most of the time is overlooked by teams that try to implement the tool because they think it's so easy, right? You just picked the one tool. Let's say you found 7 to 10 tools you liked, and then you just pick the one that you like the most and you start implementing it. But my suggestion here is you need to test the software with a real business use case. You do not want to jump into implementation straight ahead. You want to make sure that tool works for your specific business use case. So at this point, we want to select the process, and I would suggest selecting a single high value process which brings the most value to you and your business stakeholders. Let's say it can be your service delivery, it can be your business development process, whatever you decide. You select that specific process and you build the tool around that process. So you're trying to kind of understand how the tool is going to help and support us in completing that process or delivering the result that we need to deliver. And again, you might not want to dive very detailed into how you set up the tool. You just want to try to enter the real data, real client names, real tasks into the system and just see how it looks. Now, with this step, you also want to involve your stakeholders. So your team members who are going to execute that process, your COO, your CEO of the company who is overlooking the implementation and the selection process and who is going to decide if we purchase the tool or not. And you also want to use real tasks and data. So don't just create test 1, test 2. Use real tasks from your previous work management platform, or you can just get an example of the latest project that you delivered and just try to organize it in that specific system. Now, as you've done this and you've gone through a couple of review sessions with your team, most of the time is just an 1-hour session just to present the options to the team and just say, hey guys, this is how this software will work, and this is just an example of how we can organize and work in that system. Do you like it or not? And again, this feedback is very, very important and crucial because beneficiaries are going to be the people who are going to use the tool. So make sure to involve them and not kind of hide it from them until you just tell them, hey, we just subscribed to the tool, so let's start using it. Now, the sixth step of the process is making the final decision. And here you're going to account for your testing feedback. So basically feedback that your team provided you with, that your CEO provided you with, that you felt, right, when you implemented the tool. You also want to check reliability of the platform, something like cost, and also the data security. Now, there might be a little bit more components to this, and it depends on your business use case, but you might want to go into different online review platforms or resources that are shared with you earlier and just read about the platform. So what's going to be the cost of that platform? Do you need to pay for all your employees to use the platform, or can you subscribe some of them as guests? And also data security. Obviously, if you need to be HIPAA compliant or any other data regulation that you need to comply with, make sure to check this out and ensure that that platform provides this data security condition or regulation. Making the final decision is actually also interesting step, because the final decision might not be your final decision. And the reason I'm saying this is you've put together 2 or 3 contenders, and when you're making the final decision out of 2 or 3 tools that you selected previously, you might want to select one tool and go ahead with implementing that tool. But when you implement it, let's say for a single process, and we're going to discuss implementation in a different video, but when you implement it iteratively, you might see that that platform actually doesn't work, or there is something off in that platform that you couldn't predict and you couldn't see when you tested it earlier on. So you might want to go back to your 2 or 3 final contenders and just pick a different platform. So this is why the flexibility is key here as well, because there are always risks of your team not adapting the tool, or this tool not working the way you expected it to work when you were selecting the tool. And now the final step is obviously planning for implementation. Implementation is a huge thing in any work management tool implementation, right? So even if you select the right platform, there is always risk, and if you do not implement it correctly, that tool just might not work, even though that was the perfect fit. So implementing just basically consists of you accounting for things, right, like implementation itself. So how much is it going to cost us? Who's going to drive that? Who's going to be responsible for that? It also includes training. So how do we train our people, and how to make sure that people actually know how to use the tool? It also includes data migration. So if you're using if you have an existing platform, how do you migrate data from one platform to the other? Or how do you migrate data if you're not using any system at all and you're just running your projects in email threads and Google Spreadsheet? And the other part is also support. So who's going to be responsible for supporting our team when using the tool? Because I can tell you, whenever you implement something, it applies to every single software implementation or technology implementation in your operations, you're going to have problems. The problem's going to pop up, not because you did something wrong, but just because you can't account for every single mistake or every single problem that you're going to face later on. So you need to be prepared with some support plan and how you're going to troubleshoot issues that come up when you start using the tool. Now, that's basically your 7-step selection workflow or framework for selecting the right workflow management software. And if you'd like, you can access the full PDF guide in the description below that outlines all the steps with a little bit more context and more description, and some additional templates and resources that will help you find the tool better, faster, and make the right decision. I would also love to hear what's your biggest challenge in picking and adopting a new project management software in your company. Feel free to leave your comments in the comments below. I'll be glad to see your experience. And if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to this channel for more tips and methodologies on how to implement and adopt different software and technology into your day-to-day operations with success.